and gentlemen, it brings me great joy and excitement to welcome you to a very special episode of Double Take. I'm Alex Safey, joined as always by Johnny Rockets, Johnny Boy, not Jonathan, John Safey. John, what's up?
You know, it feels good, Alex. It feels good to have suffered through a bunch of super team warrior. I mean, not even super team is like an understatement. to have suffered through finals where the underdog is like the odds are plus 1,000 for them to win or plus 800, whatever. It just feels good to get to a finals where we feel like they'll be competitive. We got fresh blood, two new teams. It's not the same old boring Kevin Durant Warriors that stacked the deck against every other team. And as even seeing the Raptors win last year, you hate to see a team win because of other teams' injuries. Mm-hmm. It's good to be back in the finals. And this could have been Bucks Clippers, Bucks Lakers. We would have been happy because it was different. But the fact that it's one of my favorite players ever, LeBron James, and my favorite team, the Miami Heat, it's delicious. It's delicious. As Heat fans, as NBA fans, you couldn't wish for anything better, and this is awesome.
Absolutely, John. And, part of my excitement for just this episode itself is it's been 11 months in the making. I mean, since the NBA season started, that's actually when we did our first podcast in October. So literally
October of 2019.
Literally 11 months ago. It feels like so long ago with all the things that happened between now and then. And if we look back, John, I think without a doubt the teams that we spoke about the most throughout the season was the Heat and the Lakers. And so, needless to say, this finals, it's definitely in our wheelhouse. I mean, we've grown up watching LeBron in the finals. We've watched the Heat in the finals many years growing up as well. And so, it's pretty awesome.
Don't watch ESPN. Come listen to us.
So today we're gonna get into the key matchups for the finals. We're gonna talk all the different narratives that are surrounding the finals. We're gonna give the ingredients to win the title for each team. Then we will talk about some potential surprises that might happen during the series. And we'll also this has kind of been the sexy, sports radio talk show thing to be doing is like, how does everyone rank in the series, all the players, everyone's talking about, the Lakers have the first two, but who comes after that? Then we're going to do that. We're going to give some fun facts about this finals. And then finally, of course, we're going to be giving our championship picks. Before that, we're going to do something a little bit different on the show. We like to start with a clip from the archives. Here it is.
You want to trend something? I'm pissed, okay? So go ahead. Get it out there. I think everybody needs to get a grip. Media, Heat, players, organization, all of our fans. You got to get a grip. This stuff is hard. And you got to stay together if you got the guts and you don't find the first door and run out of it if you have an opportunity. I didn't come down here 19 years ago for a quick trip to South Beach and get a suntan. I can guarantee you that. And I don't think they did either. And so I think all of those guys, that have come here have gotten exactly what they wanted. They got the best competition, on the biggest stage. And we won two of them. They have the right to pursue those options and think about those options. And, whether they stay the way they are or whether they opt out, then we'll know what we have to do. But I don't take anything away from what LeBron had to say. He has to get away and he has to think about it. What really cements a forever bond is going through what we went through this year and staying the course. We'll find out what we're made of here. It's not about options. It's not about free agency. And we need to retool. We don't need to rebuild. We need to retool.
Okay, what you just heard is a clip immediately following the Miami Heat loss in 2014 to the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals. That's Pat Riley in a press conference. Of course, similar to how we see with Durant and the Warriors throughout the whole season, the storyline was, LeBron's free agency this summer. Is he going to leave Miami? And of course, as Heat fans, we're like, why would LeBron leave? Where's he possibly going to go? What's he going to do? And of course, the narrative that he's going to leave to go home. He wants to win a championship for the Cavs. That happened. We're like, no, it's not happening. It happens. But of course, Pat Riley also had this in mind, and someone who's very strong-willed, strong-minded, and the way he viewed it is he wanted LeBron to embrace this Heat culture and embrace this winning. And I'm Pat Riley. I put my rings on the table. You came to Miami. We showed you how to do it, and now we're gonna have this beautiful bond for the rest of your career, and it's gonna be like that. But LeBron, being someone also very strong-willed, set in his ways, he said, no, I'm gonna do it my way. I'm gonna control the narrative. And he goes to Cleveland. Of course, there's some hard feelings there. When Pat Riley tried to convince him, he has to fly out to Vegas. Apparently, LeBron, this is just what we've said, it's read in articles and different reports. LeBron was being disrespectful. He was just like watching some World Cup game with his friends. And Alonzo Mourning had to be like, no, LeBron, like, you're not going to disrespect Pat Riley like this.
You don't respect the Godfather.
Of course, on his flight back, Pat Riley gets that fateful phone call, and the rest is history. So now we have two guys who are very petty, very competitive. They both want to win. And Pat Riley, I know for a fact, John, and I just think about this matchup specifically. It could have been the Celtics, it could have been the Bucks, but this matchup, I don't think there's any team that wants to beat LeBron more in the NBA right now. No. Except maybe the Clippers, but they got sent home.
I definitely agree with you. And I think just looking at it, you talk about how similar the two are, right? Very competitive. And the fact they're both here, both facing their former team, is fun. I mean, obviously for Pat Riley, it's not like he's facing Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and LeBron isn't facing Dwayne Wade and Bosh either.
We still got Udonis, I guess.
Right, but to see this happening, I think that's why the graphic for this episode that you made, Alex, is a big face of Pat Riley and a big face of LeBron James. That's clearly the biggest storyline here. Another one I see, and we've seen this a lot of different years, is best player on one team, the superstar guy, LeBron right now, the GOAT right now in the league, versus a better formed, created team that's top to bottom, has a lot of they're well-rounded. The shooting, the defense.
There's no clear weakness with the Miami Heat.
Right. Whereas after got number 1 and 2 on the Lakers, it's clear that they don't have the best, depth. They don't have the depth. They don't have the supporting cast. You could argue, and we're going to get into this, who's really their third best player. Because on any given night, it's kind of a different guy depending on who defends well. If Rondo has more assists, if Kuzma hits his shots, it could be anybody. Whereas with the Heat, they clearly know what each guy's capable of, and which guy. Yeah, everyone knows their role, and even the fact that on one given night, you can't just say, all right, we have to stop Jimmy Butler. Because we've seen teams stop Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, and Tyler Hero goes out for 37. Bam has 30, and it doesn't matter. So you can't just say, we're going to stop their best player. Whereas we know if we stop that nucleus, LeBron James, if we stop him, then...
It's a tall task.
Yes.
It's nearly impossible to do.
They're gonna have more of a difficult time, but they do have Anthony Davis, and that's what's difficult. It's not just as much as having one superstar. They have 2 top 5 guys in the league, or if you want to say top 7, they have 2 legitimate top 7 guys in the NBA right now. And the Heat, their best ones are not maybe top 10, but they just have much more depth and are much more cohesive as a team.
Of course, and I think following that narrative, one that's closely tied to it, is also the underdog with the chip on their shoulder versus the kind of the superstars. I mean, you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis on your on your team. You're expected to make the finals. Our team going into the season, the preseason Vegas win over under total was 43.5.
Oh yeah,
teams thought we'd be a few games above 500. Here we are, and we're a different team. There's a lot of guys who broke out this year. The trade, of course, with getting Jay Crowder helped us.
But how great was that Bam quote after? And I know Jimmy has walked back on it about us being underdogs.
Well, I think it's two different
Bam
things.
Goes, yeah, everyone out here got a chip on their shoulder, and just from having the guy, our leader being right now, a guy who's not playing, Udonis Haslem, who was undrafted. He's the underdog. He's got the chip on his shoulder. He represents that Heat culture, right? And then we got guys like Hero, who the other day said, "Yeah, I think about the 12 guys that went ahead of me, and it's in the back of my head thinking about that." And obviously, guys like Butler, who were drafted late, who were counted out in Minnesota, in Chicago, in Philly. Guys like Bam, who people did not expect to be an all-star, to be what he's been, to be the most improved player, which he still didn't even get that award over Brandon Ingram. And just the fact that all of our guys, and then Duncan Robinson, a guy who played D3, even Kendrick Nunn, undrafted guy, all these guys have a chip on their shoulder. They're not supposed to be here, but they're here right now, and they're going to be hungry, and they're they're going to throw punches at the Lakers, and this is going to be the toughest team the Lakers have faced.
Absolutely, John. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, about the hunger and chip on your shoulder a little bit later in the show. But I definitely do think, and with this Lakers team, we have seen them be complacent here and there in the playoffs. So it'll definitely be interesting. I still think anything could happen. We're gonna get to our picks at the end of the show. John, why don't we discuss some key matchups right now? Do you want to start off? Who do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I think the first one I think of is Bam and Anthony Davis. I think two guys who are top 4 in Defensive Player of the Year voting, and in the playoffs, it's clearly been like Bam and AD, of course, who both led their team to the finals. But they're both the best defenders that each of them have gone up against. I mean, think about what AD's seen out west. Nurkic was on him primarily that first.
That other guy, I can't remember his name.
Right.
He was filling in for Zach Collins.
What was that?
I'm sure
that young guy's name.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't remember his
There
name.
was the Mario Hazonia played some time on him. Nurkic.
But they saw some Nurkic minutes. Nurkic did all right some games, but obviously we know how that series went. It was 4 games. It was over in Game 5 after that Game 1 win for Portland. Second round, he's seeing the micro ball team, right?
Yeah. Everyone was losing their minds. PJ Tucker.
He's tough.
In Game 1.
Again, the Houston Rockets won Game 1 against the Lakers, and then 4 straight wins for the Lakers. So now we're seeing round 3, and we knew regardless of who they faced, it was either going to be Jokic, a guy who's not as great at defense, and Mason Plumlee, that whole group of Denver guys, or we'd see the Clippers, who don't really have a big guy to go up against them. I mean, it wasn't going to be Joakim Noah, obviously.
It would have been like,
Zubac, guys who are small, guys who AD definitely would be scoring against. So Bam Adebayo, I mean, you could argue that him, Rudy Gobert, and I guess Giannis as Defensive Player of the Year are the only other guys that would have been, all right, this is going to be a tough matchup. So I say that for AD, and I also say that for Bam. Daniel Tice was great, of course. He played some pretty good defense.
He had a few solid games.
But we saw what happened when Bam turned on the Jets in Game 6 against that matchup. He couldn't be stopped by Tice. And then also in the previous 2 series, Lopez and Giannis, definitely great defenders. But again, the 1v1 matchup that we're seeing with Davis, with Bam, it's going to be I think one of the biggest things to watch, because how these guys play is like when Bam is our best player, we see the Heat win. If AD goes off, with LeBron doing what he does, that the Lakers are most likely going to win this title. AD is a huge X factor for them.
He definitely is. I mean, without a good Davis, that team doesn't last a chance. So, of course, I wouldn't expect Bam to be able to, quote-unquote, lock him down or shut him down. But if Bam can get a few solid games where, not even just as far as scoring, Davis averaged like 6 rebounds in the last series.
Right.
Of course, Dwight Howard had like probably 10 a game. LeBron was at like 9 a game, whatever it was. But even just crashing the boards, that's going to be a big thing for the Lakers. They're definitely oversized. One thing I do want to say about our game plan against Davis, I think I might throw something similar that we threw at Giannis at Davis, which is essentially start with Jay Crowder on him. That sounds crazy. Jay Crowder's 6'6", Davis is about 6'11", 7 foot. But you compare their weights. Jay Crowder's 230 pounds, and Davis is 255. So yes, Davis could probably shoot over him, and that'll be a tough matchup. But the reason I say that is because Bam is so integral to what we do on both sides of the floor. We couldn't possibly risk him getting into foul trouble early in the game, which I don't know if coaches would ever like intentionally try to be, all right, let's get this guy into foul trouble early. But if Vogel went out and tried to do that, like that would honestly make sense, because without Bam, you might as well just give this championship to the Lakers.
Right.
So Bam has been so great at help D this year, and that's something that we were able to deploy against Giannis, even though a lot of people thought that was gonna be the 1v1.
Yeah, the one difference I would say is, of course, you could compare LeBron and AD to how he stopped Giannis. They're going to be able to stop one of them. The one difference I make is that they can't shoot.
Oh, yeah, Giannis can't shoot.
That Giannis is not the shooter that these two guys are. We saw Anthony Davis make a 25, what is it? It was a 3-point game winner, 30-foot game-winning shot from the wing. So
Giannis isn't doing that.
That's what the 7-foot guy who can do what Giannis does down low in the paint. Maybe I'll give Giannis a slight edge as just being a paint beast, but Anthony Davis, of course, being as dominant as he is in the paint, can also take you outside and shoot. So that's the difficulty. And I think, if he could shoot over Jay Crowder's head, that's going to be difficult. I want to see Bam on him. It's going to be tough because Bam's going to get tired out, of course, on defense. What's he going to do on offense? But we're going to get to that in a minute. Alex, what's the next matchup you're looking for?
So the next one, this is it's pretty much LeBron versus all of our defensive guys. But the main two that I want to point out is one, Jimmy Butler, two, Andre Iguodala. These are two guys who throughout their careers in the playoffs actually have played against LeBron. Jimmy Butler's the only one I can think of actually. Probably should have looked back, but he's in
2013 was the year in the second round when they didn't have Derrick Rose. He was hurt, and that's when the Heat faced him.
I think it was 2013 where in the second round we played them. Jimmy Butler spent some time on LeBron. They actually they went up 1-0 in that series, and then we won 4 straight.
No.
They won game 1. They went up 1-0.
Did they really?
We had a week layoff. And then they come and win game 1.
With Nate Robinson.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Anyway, 7 years ago.
So Jimmy Butler, and there's this one video I remember watching. If anyone who watches Basketball Breakdown, I actually really like those videos. It's this guy, Coach Nick, I think his name is. He breaks down different games, different series, stuff like that. And he's been doing it for a while. So I do remember it was like the best, his video is the best LeBron James defender is not Paul George. It's Jimmy Butler. And so Jimmy has been, of course, he's a great defender, but he's also been a guy who has had relative success against someone as great as LeBron. Another guy, Andre Iguodala, Finals MVP, just because he held LeBron to 30, 11, and 7 assists. So Iguodala is also a guy who, that's just a matchup to watch for. As far as can these guys slow down LeBron potentially? And then on the other side of things, LeBron James hearing this, of course, LeBron James, he hears everything. People say stuff, whatever. He knows what the narratives are. He knows what people are
he cares about that stuff. He pays attention to it.
And I think especially for this, he has an opportunity now to torch a guy, I'm not even talking about Jimmy now, a guy who people have said, he's the LeBron stopper. He plays as great defense on LeBron as anyone can.
Right, and won a Finals MVP because of his good defense against LeBron, which is ridiculous. LeBron, that was a stupid reason for him to win Finals MVP. LeBron should have been the Finals MVP, and of course they didn't want to give it to a player whose team lost. But LeBron was the most valuable player in that NBA Finals.
Would have loved to be the first guy since Jerry Wayne, the second guy ever to get a Finals MVP on the losing team.
He is in my book.
Just to illuminate, look at me. I'm out here doing what I'm doing. I have no one on my help. I Dellavedova, I have Tristan Thompson. So LeBron's definitely going to be like, oh yeah, Iguodala, Finals MVP. Let's see how you can do against me now. Iguodala's now, 36 years old. So, but he's also, finally kind of hitting his strides again. This is what he lives for here in the NBA Finals. All right, let's move on, John. So, ingredients or keys to winning the championship this year for each team. What team should we start with?
Why don't we go with the Heat?
All right.
Let's go with the Heat first.
Stick with the Heat. So, John, I'll start with a pretty simple one, and then you can give me yours, and let's go back and forth to give a couple keys. So, the first one, this is going to be, any good team, you're trying to win a championship, you have to play to your strengths. You have to do what you've been doing all year long. And for Miami Heat, if not, if not the first strength you think of, it's one of the first couple you think of with us, it's our three-point shooting. We've been shooting lights out since October. We've been incredible. And it's pretty. I don't want to say we're a live by the three, die by the three type of team. Because last series versus Boston, there was some guys that normally hit threes that struggled a few games, but we were still able to pull it out. And I think we're versatile enough that we can do other things. But if we're gonna hope to beat a team that has LeBron James, Anthony Davis, you're gonna have to just do the math and say, all right, if we make enough threes, it won't matter if LeBron drops 40. It won't matter if Davis is crashing the boards and go running for 30 and 20. If we're able to make more threes than them, and here's another thing, John. I don't think that this team is as good defensively as the Celtics were. We had Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, all these guys on the wing guarding people like
Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart, of course, you can't forget him. Guarding Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero, 20-year-old,
right.
not super tall, super big,
right.
And he's getting guarded by these large swingman defenders. I don't think the Lakers can do that to us. So 3-point shooting is going to be huge this series for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, totally. And you know what, Alex? You kind of already stole my other point that I was about to make just then. I think huge ingredient for Miami, huge key, the case for them is that we're going to see a big series from Tyler Hero. And the reason being, we just saw him have huge games in Game 3 and in Game 4, of course, the game where he dropped 37 in the win. His career high, regardless of regular season playoffs, that's the most points he scored. Even in college, he never scored that many points. So Tyler Hero, 37, who would he do that against? The best defensive team in the league in the playoffs, with Jaylen Brown guarding him, with Marcus Smart guarding him. Two very, very good defenders. And Now he's going up against who? Alex Caruso, Rajon Rondo.
KCP put some minutes on him.
I guess potentially. Who's going to stop him there? Can Caruso and Rondo stop him? No. I think we see a big series from them. He did an incredible job scoring on two very, very good defenders. And now he's seeing the level of his defender go down.
Yeah.
What are we going to see from him? He doesn't shy away from the moment. And listen, if there's any moment for a 20-year-old kid to be hooping, it's in an empty gym right now. So the argument for him, for the Heat right now, is that Tyler Hero is going to play big.
Yep, all right. Those are our first two keys. Third key, here's something that we saw Houston do against the Lakers, is play Dwight Howard off the floor. Versus Houston, of course, Houston's a small ball team. Their tallest guy on the court is like 6'6", 6'7", whatever. And so Dwight Howard in that series and JaVale McGee each averaged 7 minutes per game. You go to the Denver series, Dwight Howard was one of like the big, names during that series, and how he matched up against Jokic, and people are like, oh, look at this, like little, career rejuvenation for Dwight. He's finally playing in the perfect role for himself. All he has to do, worry about defense, worry about rebounding the ball, and he did it. He did a solid job against Jokic, and he averaged 20 minutes per game. I think he ended up moving into the starting lineup. They took JaVale.
Right, they did. So
Dwight Howard's coming off as great of a playoff series as you could get from him.
And that definitely
in this iteration of like his career or whatever.
Right.
So I think something he'd have to do is the Lakers play with Davis and another big. Usually it's Dwight or JaVale. I don't think we'll see JaVale in this series. But if we can play small enough and expose the mismatch, because one of those two guys is going to have to guard, I guess it'd probably be Jay Crowder, which, of course, Davis can guard Jay Crowder. But I don't know, if we make his job hard, send him through screens, see what we can do similar to Houston. And when Bam comes off the floor, John, we've taken
Solomon Hill, our backup center.
Solomon Hill or Andre Iguodala. We've taken Kelly out of the rotation. Who knows? That's another question.
They're going to come back. Well, I think Spo does that when he goes away from his guys, but maybe he's not using certain chess pieces, but he still has them in his fanny pack to pull out and use.
He has no problem pulling out guys who are out of school. Like Solomon Hill, we saw get.
No, yeah, of course, but I'm just saying he also has no problem not playing a guy for a whole series or for the whole playoffs potentially, and throwing him into the mix, which we're going to talk about, guys on the Heat that we think might happen. But I think Alex, you make a good point there. About just the Lakers bigs. The Lakers are the second best team in offensive rebound, number one in the playoffs. The number one was the Philadelphia 76ers, who only played 4 games, of course. So Lakers averaging 10.1 offensive rebounds per game. That's a lot. And ranking against the Heat are number 11, which out of the 16 playoff teams. So that's one thing that does worry me. I don't want to see a big rebound disadvantage in Miami's favor, in the Lakers' favor. So that would definitely be something that would hurt our team. But very good point. And then the last point that I want to make for the keys for Miami is they got to make the other guys win the series. By throwing these bodies at LeBron, by making him more of the passer and making Anthony Davis be the finals MVP of this series, I think that's more what you want to do. Because if LeBron gets cooking, if LeBron gets going, we saw what he did at the end of the series against Denver in Game 5. He said, I'm ready to close it out. He's the best player on this court. He's the best player ever, right? Aside from maybe you want to say Michael Jordan, it's going to be tough to slow him down, of course. And the Miami Heat, I think, we talk about the Clippers a lot being the best team that was best equipped to stop them. They had Kawhi, they had Paul George, Pat Beverly even helping off sometimes, Marcus Morris, etc. Montrez, good defensive tough guys. The next best team, if you look at it, there's not a better team other than the Heat. Like you mentioned, Alex, Jimmy Butler. And I have a stat here. Since 2013-14 season, the defenders with LeBron scoring the lowest field goal percentage as the closest defender to LeBron, number 2 and 3 ranked guys are Jimmy and Crowder. So, of course, Andre Iguodala, we talked about his defense in the 2015 finals. You look at that, the fact that the Heat have all these different bodies, of course, even if we saw some minutes from Bam on LeBron, I think that's good. Obviously, if Anthony Davis is out, or who knows, if a different big in from Miami is guarding him. If you see some minutes from Bam, I think LeBron's going to get a lot of different looks, and I think that's going to be very important for the Heat to win.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, anytime you can get the ball out of his hands, you even if it's Davis, you'd rather have, all right, you know what, if if David, I'd rather bet on Davis not having a great series than LeBron James not having a great series. LeBron James lives in the finals.
Yeah.
You know? And of course, not even if we can get it out of both those guys' hands. Yeah, make Caruso win the game, make Rondo win, make Kuzma win, make these unproven guys who honestly on any other team are not very special. Make them have to win the finals against us.
All right, Alex. Ingredients for the Lakers to win this championship. They're the favorite team. What do you got?
So number one, this one's also, I'll start with the kind of the easy ones. They're pretty clear. They have to do better against Miami's zone defense than Boston did. And Boston, towards the end of the series, you got to give them credit. They did a much better job. They did have a few games where they just absolutely torched. Game 3 specifically was the game that they just tore it apart. But, Eric Spoelstra said, no, we're going to keep going with this. This is how I'm going to hide my defenders. This is Miami Heat basketball. This is what we're doing. We've done it all season long. And so, but, of course, either two things. One, I don't know why, but I just don't, for some reason, I think that, I honestly just don't know why. I think it should have been easy money for Brad Stevens to just torch it. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to be able to put LeBron right in the middle of the zone defense.
You think so? He's the point guard. You think they're going to put him there?
Fine, put LeBron.
Rondo feeding LeBron.
Put LeBron in there. Put Davis in there. You want a guy who can make plays, who can be a triple threat in that middle spot. And the Celtics didn't do that as much. The Celtics more were trying to screen and do different ISOs and different things. Just,
right.
Those also work to break the zone.
And they went out dunking it and it worked. They got him in foul trouble. So you're going to see the Lakers do that.
Speaking of basketball breakdown that I talked about earlier, I did watch one of the videos and he actually had some clips where I just can't even believe these games. This game is from like December, John, when we played the Lakers.
Yeah.
And we did have the zone against them a few times. And what they did is they did have LeBron in the middle during a few plays during that. Which if you got LeBron in the middle of the paint, he's just gonna. I could see him tearing us apart.
Right. He'll be throwing lobs to JaVale. He'll be pulling up for that mid-range shot. He'll be driving. He'll do, like you said, triple threat. He has every option in that middle.
And I would be super shocked if one of the storylines after a game would be similar to the Game 2 storyline, which is Miami zone. Boston couldn't score on Miami zone. Boston got confused. I would be very shocked if that happened in any game during the finals.
Right.
So that's a key for the Lakers.
Yeah, and that gets to one of my keys is LeBron needs to be LeBron. That's a huge ingredient for them to win. Of course, it's obvious. It's like forgetting the ham and cheese for your sandwich. That's obvious that the Lakers are going to need LeBron to have a big series. The Celtics didn't have a guy like that. If you want to say the smartest guy was Brad Stevens breaking down the zone, I think here LeBron James is going to be out there for a quarter, and he's going to have a pretty good idea of how the Heat run their zone. He knows Coach Spo. He knows the way he prepares. He knows what he's going up against, and LeBron is the most cerebral player that we've seen in this generation, in this era. And he's gonna break that zone down. He's gonna be the smartest guy. I would even say smarter than Coach Vogel. And he's gonna have a big help in that. So smartest player the Heat have gone up against this playoffs, of course. So he's gonna just be him. And whether he finds that one night he needs to be the scorer for the team versus the next night he needs to be the passer for them, he's gonna do what he needs to do to get the job done. Alex, what's your next key?
Okay, next key for the Lakers to win the series is, I talked about this earlier as kind of a key for Miami. So the opposite would be dominate with their size. And so if in the Heat's perfect world, they're getting way less minutes from Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee.
Right.
In the Lakers' perfect world, Dwight is going to have a series similar to last series or even better. And you mentioned how they're a very good offensive rebounding team. Miami's, in today's NBA, we see a lot of small teams. But if you actually think about Miami, yes, Bam is an incredible center. He's only about... Is he 6'9"? I think he's... I don't know.
I would say 6'9".
You say 6'10"?
6'9".
Oh, yeah. So Bam is 6'9". And after that, Jay Crowder is 6'6". Jimmy Butler is about 6'6". So we have a relatively small group. Of course, we're versatile defensively. We can switch on everything. But, of course, that's the advantage of having a unicorn like Anthony Davis on your team is... He's big enough, but he's also fast. He can dribble. He can put it on. He can put it on the floor. He can do so much. So our size or our small ball could hurt us if the Lakers are able to exploit it by out rebounding us, by being better, by utilizing Davis against the smaller guys,
right.
And of course getting in the paint. They I think right now They definitely kill us in points.
Right, and like I mentioned earlier, offensive rebounds, Lakers are number 2 right now in the playoffs, other than the Philadelphia Sixers team, who only played 4 games this playoffs. But that gets to my last point, Alex. My last ingredient is the bigs. They need to tire Bam out. Just the Lakers in general. If they can tire Bam out, if they can get him in foul trouble, obviously the Celtics tried, weren't as successful doing that. Getting in foul trouble, having him guard Davis, having him have to handle Dwight and JaVale. That's a lot for him to handle all in the paint. And then also to go on the other side of the court and be the Miami's best offensive player, it's going to be extremely hard for him to do that. Jimmy, not as much. Maybe Jimmy can take a break. Jimmy doesn't have to be guarding LeBron for every possession, but the Heat really do want to keep Bam as close to Davis as they can because he is going to do the best job on AD as anyone else. So the Lakers need to tire Bam out if they want to get this job done and win the title.
Absolutely. Okay, that wraps up our ingredients and our keys to win the championship for each team, both Miami and LA. Now, John, there's a few potential surprises, different fun storylines that we could see. I mean, growing up watching the finals, there's certain things between the chess matches with Greg Popovich, Eric Spoelstra. It's like, all right, this game, the story is they threw Manu Ginobili into the starting lineup. Spo put Mike Miller into the starting. These different things. What's a surprise we could see? Or actually, I kind of want to start with this one, John.
Go ahead, Alex.
Lineup changes. Here's something that I think might happen. Coming right off, we just talked about the size that the Lakers have and the advantage versus the Heat. I wouldn't bet on this because I expect the Heat and Eric Spoelstra to say, no, we're gonna go with our strengths and what we've done during the playoffs. But I could see a world in which we say Dwight Howard and Davis are too much. Myers Leonard, we call his number off the bench. He gets in, and he spent. I wouldn't be shocked if he had like 10, 15 minutes. If we at least tried that in one game. I mean, there's a multitude of ways the series could go, and if they come out off the bat, hit us in the mouth, and they're super strong in the paint, super strong using their size and rebounding, maybe Myers Leonard's a guy because. Our second big man that we played, Kelly Olynyk, not a great defender.
No, he's out there for offense.
Not a great rebounding. He's out there for offense.
Over-under for Myers Leonard minutes in the series, 10. What do you go?
I mean, I'd probably bet on the under.
Really? Okay.
I'd probably bet. If I got bet money, I'd bet on the under. But to me, that's why I said it's a potential surprise.
I just think this is it.
A surprise for...
let's say the Heat are down 1-0, 2-0, maybe it's 2-1, 3-1 potentially. Obviously, no one would be surprised by the Lakers taking a lead in this series. Spo's going to go down, and he's going to throw the kitchen sink at him.
True.
He could switch something up. I mean, and that's me assuming that the reason that the Lakers won was for part of it was their size. So Spo trying to neutralize that. I'm going to just use my big body. I'm going to throw Leonard out there. He's our big 7-footer, the hammer, right? Obviously, he's more of an offensive player. He can hit threes as a 7-foot guy. But I wouldn't be surprised either if we saw some Myers Leonard minutes.
The only really, really risky thing about it, and yes, if we're down 3-1, why not? Shoot and try it. But if the risky thing about it is that we sacrifice some of that defensive versatility. We can't switch on everything if Myers Leonard's on the floor.
I still think, you can't switch, but I think you just got to make sure that he's they're playing good pick and roll D, and he sticks with their big man, whether it's JaVale or Dwight.
The Celtics did. It'd be like switching everything except for an S-camp.
Right.
So
okay, Alex, my potential surprise. I talked about this earlier. Butler and Bam have their hands full this series, and I think the Heat have a better shot of winning this than people think, and my potential surprise would be Tyler Hero Finals MVP. The odds are plus 1,200. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, if you're bettors, you throw $10 on this bet. You win $120 if Tyler Hero is the Finals MVP.
I mean, that's like you trade one Chipotle burrito for 12.
Right, I think it's a very good value bet. I think, and for the reason I'm saying is that
if you strongly think the Heat are gonna win. Yes,
and
he's a good player.
And we're gonna get into that when we make our picks, Alex. If we think the Heat are gonna win, why we're gonna pick them. But Tyler Hero Finals MVP, I like it. Butler's gonna have to do a lot on defense. And we've seen him in the past series. He was our fourth leading scorer. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the series that they said, but it was like after games 4 or 5 they said that. So. Butler, we could obviously see him come back, and if the Heat win, you could see him to be the Finals MVP. You could also see Bam. I would say Bam would probably be the Heat's favorite to be the Finals MVP because of all that he's going to have to do this series, coming off of the best game of his career in Game 6 versus the Celtics. I think he's going to do a lot defensively, but the argument is there that Bam's going to have his hands full, doing everything on defense, trying to handle all the Lakers' bigs. I think Tyler if he has Caruso, Rondo, KCP guarding him, even Danny Green, who hasn't looked good in the playoffs yet, he's going to torch them because we saw what he just did against really good defenders in Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. I think that's my potential surprise for this series.
Yeah, that would be incredible. That would be a beautiful storyline.
Oh, and one more thing I have to say.
Okay, go on.
It's funny because we start our first episode back, for our first playoff episode. I remember, Alex, I sat down, I pulled up the document, and one of the topics I wanted to talk about was who has the most to gain from winning a title, right? And we talked about LeBron, has he become the GOAT after the title, Giannis and Kawhi winning with 3 different teams, whatever. And as a joke, Alex, you put Tyler Hero, Finals MVP. He goes 1-0 in his season, in his career, and he goes 1-for-1 in the finals with the Finals MVP in that team. I think, listen, if Tyler Hero did that, he's on pace to be the best player ever. You start off your career like he's on pace to be the next Magic Johnson, right? Rookie who wins in his first year, Finals MVP. I'm just saying it's funny, Alex, because I was like why would you put that on the document? Like, no one's gonna see this joke you made. Like, haha, you're funny, whatever.
It's for us too, John. It's for us too.
And you put that down. Tyler Hero is the most to gain. Is he the next MJ? Whatever. Like, funny joke. But look, the Heat made it to the finals, and here we are.
Right now, it seems. I mean, if the Heat win, that's a top 3.
I would say so. I would say after Bam and Butler, of course, those are the favorites. You got to go with
Hero. And we talked.
But actually, Dragic has slightly better odds. Oh wait, hold on. Look what I'm seeing. September 28th. I guess the sportsbook I looked at was bad. I'll just go really quickly. Finals MVP odds. LeBron -125. Davis +250. Butler and Bam both +900. Then it jumps all the way to plus 3,000 for Dragic and plus 3,500 for Tyler Hero. So you know what?
Man.
The book that I have to throw $10 for 120. No, this one's actually you throw $10, you make 300. 350.
35 Chipotle burritos.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness, I gotta do that.
So yeah.
But yeah, and he's also a guy who maybe after this last series, the Lakers are gonna have a game plan for him. But I think he's always a guy who can fly under the radar. You're worried about Duncan Robinson getting going. You're worried about Bam. You're worried about Dragic, and of course Jimmy Butler, who has the highest maybe offensive potential, or one of the highest offensive potential on our team. You're maybe not as worried about the guy coming off the bench who's 20 years old.
Of course. All right, now with that, Alex, why don't we start ranking our players? Okay. Number 1 and 2 are obviously LeBron and Anthony Davis.
It's very clear that Davis and LeBron are the top 2 players in the series. Right now, it's definitely you got to go LeBron 1, Davis 2. Considering how LeBron just played in his last game, his hunger, his experience. Davis is a guy who has not been in the finals yet, and we saw this with Jason Tatum last series. How in those big moments he did not really play big. And of course Davis, he can follow the lead of LeBron. He's favored. It's just, at the end of the day, you can just think, all right, it's just basketball. When you do get in the finals, and let's say it's a close game, the end of the series, end of the game, fourth quarter, who knows what he's gonna do. So, but anyway, you got to give LeBron James the nod, then Davis. After that, John, who do you think is the third best player?
Yeah, I think the people are immediately gonna be like, think Butler, and it's funny the people that don't watch basketball, whether it's on ESPN and whatnot. Butler's been leading this team. Butler's been incredible. Butler this, Butler that. It's mostly just the team. We don't have one superstar that's leading us there. That's why people aren't talking about Butler. Like, is Butler a top 3 guy in the NBA? Even though he led his team, I'm using air quotes right now. And that's because a large reason is it's also Bam. And I think Bam, we talked about this yesterday, you and I, Alex, how Bam has really emerged as more of the most important guy on the Heat team. Of course, Jimmy, you probably still say might be best player. But no, I think there's a huge argument for Bam. Going forward, Bam he was in company with Wade, LeBron, and Shaq for his Game 6 performance, scoring 30-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, 5-plus assists. And I think right now, he's going to be the most important for the Heat. So I got him at 3. Butler's obviously 4.
I disagree just because I don't think it's even a question. I don't think there's any. I think it was very clear last series. Bam is our best player. All season long, you could say maybe he's our MVP just because he was integral to what we were doing, but maybe you wouldn't say he's our best player. I think right now it's clear he's our best player. He's our MVP. So Bam's number 3. Of course, afterwards, I'm going with Jimmy Butler. On any given night, Jimmy Butler could have an incredible offensive game. He could also be the leader on the defense and making huge defensive plays down the stretch.
Even while he's being you could see him shoot, only 13 shots throughout the series, or not throughout the series. I'm saying in a game, and You know, he can go to the free throw line, of course, a lot. He could be more on defense, like you said, Alex, more on offense. You could see anything from him. Swiss Army knife guy.
And I think this is something that the sports talking heads ignore more, the entertainment ESPN type, like the Stephen A types.
Well, they can't avoid it anymore. They have to start.
Well, no. I think the thing that they ignore,
mistakes.
John, is they look at the stat sheet. They say, oh, he had 14 points tonight. He was 4 for 8 shooting.
Right.
What is that? And I literally did see Stephen A say this. Jimmy Butler, we're gonna need more from you, Jimmy. It's like, and what he always says in interviews is, that's not us at our best basketball. That's not what we've done. He's like, I've been on teams where I've scored 25, 30 points, whatever.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of buckets. But guess what? Those teams never won anything.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
And so, and that goes back to why it's a good 1-2 punch with Bam and Jimmy. But anyways, Jimmy's the 4th best player. After that, John, I think this is one of the little interesting. Is some people might say Tyler Hero. I'm gonna say Goran Dragic.
Yeah, either or is fine with me.
The 5th best player in this series.
After last series, you might want to say it's Hero, but Dragic and Hero. So right now, the Heat got the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th best player in the series.
Without Dragic, John, we don't win game 1 and 2. Dragic goes for 29 points and then 25.
And he'll be forgotten. He'll be if the Heat pull it off, he's gonna be the unsung hero in history. They'll look back, whether the Heat win this title or not, and say, "Oh, that Heat team was, they lost to a better Lakers team, but that was an incredible season that they had." And people are gonna look back and in 10 years from now, Hero and Bam are going to be some of the top guys in this league. They're going to look back on this Heat team and say, oh, they had Hero, they had Bam, they had Jimmy Butler. People aren't going to forget as much. They're not going to remember Goran Dragic as much, but he's definitely right now, I would say, Alex, 3rd best player probably if you take the entirety of the season of the playoffs.
No doubt. So next up, John.
Duncan Robinson's who I got next. I think
after Hero.
After Hero. So right now, we give the Lakers number 1 and number 2. The Heat have 3 through 7 after that. And you can either push an argument, a little farther, but I wouldn't go any farther than Duncan Robinson 7 for just how much importance he has, and I would give him the edge over Rondo. Rondo's number 8, I think, and he's the 3rd best, most important guy for the Lakers. And
so the thing about Duncan Robinson too is I just want to say people would just think he's a shooter. They think he's Kyle Korver. He's not. He can do way more than Kyle Korver. He's a good passer. He can. I mean, we saw him. I think the game we lost, game 5 versus Boston. He did get to the hoop early in the game.
Oh, it was awesome. Seeing him drive like that, he had like 3 layups. It's like the most. They probably more than he had throughout the entire season.
I mean, he didn't have any 2-point. He shot 1 2-point shot before that game, but in the series, in the playoffs, I think. But with Duncan Robinson, it's not even when he's hitting shots. When he's not even, the fact that they have to account so much pressure and so much defense for him. He does a lot for our team, whether or not he's making or missing them. Next up, Rajon Rondo. This one too, John. I mean, any given night, you don't know. Some nights, maybe KCP is the 3rd best player on the Lakers. Kyle Kuzma, as far as talent-wise, you'd probably say he is. But
I would say talent-wise, but he definitely hasn't played like that.
And you go
his best game this year. I mean, someone said something about him being better than Hero, and I saw a tweet that was his best game was like 18 points. 2 assists and 2 rebounds this playoffs. Yeah, but he's better than Tyler Hero, who just dropped 37 points.
He's in a different role than Hero, so I don't even want to compare. I think if you want to pick who'd you rather have on your team, I think it'd have to be Tyler Hero.
Oh, no doubt, no question.
But
I don't even know if Kuzma's 9. You could go with even importance. For the Lakers, I might even say Dwight Howard over him, and I would even put for the Heat Crowder, if he can get back to the Crowder that was in the Milwaukee series, or maybe Iguodala. Crowder definitely last series. His shooting percentage went down a lot. So maybe you could still say Kuzma more talented, but I don't know. Iguodala.
Kuzma has the talent. Well,
yes.
So 8 is, I think we're just going to favor. That's playoff Rondo. So 9, I will put Kyle Kuzma just because of his talent, and just because I'm thinking a little bit of when I rank these guys going in. I'm thinking who can have the most impact on a game. Yes, of course, there could be a game where Dwight Howard has an impact. There could even be a game where Danny Green, who's not someone we put very high on this list, he could go off. I mean, he hasn't had a good shooting game this whole playoffs, really. So he's a guy who could have. But I think Kyle Kuzma, given his talent, given him just being like the 3rd most talented guy on that team, I would put him at 9. Number 10, John, do you have a Miami Heat player?
I would probably say
4, or do you have it even 5 and 5 for our top 10?
I would probably say it's Crowder and Iguodala tied in a way. Just whoever shows up, because I think game to game, for example, game 6. Iguodala, I don't think we're going to see him do this maybe in the finals, but 4 for 4 from 3, right? That's where he started. And you could also see Crowder. Crowder was that guy for us in the round against Milwaukee. So I think we could see that go either way. But to me, regardless of who it is, I would still like them over Caruso, KCP, Danny Green, whoever you think.
Yeah, that's fair. And Crowder, I think, something that he was able to do when he was missing shots. I mean, he didn't. Spoelstra just didn't take him off the floor.
Yeah.
In the end, of crunch time, we had Iguodala because Iguodala was 4 for 4 for threes. But Crowder is still able to make an impact on the floor in other ways.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Alex. We're about
top
45 minutes in the episode. You got to go to class yet? Because we still got to make our picks.
No, let's go another 10, 15.
All right.
We should be fine.
So you got your fun facts for this finals, Alex. Let's hear them.
5 fun facts for the 2020 NBA Finals. Number 1, Tyler Hero will be the first player, John, born in the 2000s. He's only, I think, 7 days older than us.
Right.
First player to be born in the 2000s to play in the NBA Finals. I love
That's
that.
awesome.
I love that stat. I love that fact.
Right.
I love that that's a thing that, Tyler, our
First
guy,
2000s, baby.
Yeah, first 2000s, baby. Picked up 13th overall. He's playing his first Finals.
Right.
This next one, John, it's obvious if you watch basketball, but when you think about it, it's kind of weird how we got to this place where LeBron James and Andre Iguodala are now playing in their 5th Finals against each other.
They switched conferences.
They fully switched conferences, and now Iguodala got back to the Finals
with a different team. It's crazy.
LeBron.
Iguodala is 6. That's another fun fact.
6 straight.
6 straight finals for Andre Iguodala.
Okay, number 3. LeBron James and Udonis Haslem have each made a finals appearance in every decade. LeBron, so Haslem, his first one, 2006 year, the Miami Heat.
What do you mean by every decade? The past 3 decades?
3 decades.
Right.
Oh, I said that wrong. In every decade of the last 3. So Udonis Haslem, 06. Then, of course, we had the finals run, which he had with LeBron, which was 11 to 14. And then now 20, this is the new decade. LeBron, his first finals appearance was 07. The year after that, he won the championship.
Wow.
And so in each of the last 3 decades, and it's just crazy. I mean, they've each been in the league for now their 17th season. So it's awesome, and it also puts in perspective how great LeBron is that he's doing this well, and the other guy who's also been obviously not as great as LeBron, but in the same every decade has been in the finals.
Right.
He's on the end of the bench. He's basically a coach at this point.
Well, he's also 40. He's 5 years older, or 4 or 5 years older than LeBron. So yeah, LeBron's the GOAT, of course. We don't need to get into that right now. What's next, Alex?
Number 4, Bam Adebayo led the Heat in points, rebounds, assists, and steals in the Eastern Conference Finals. The last 3 players to do that, John. LeBron James did it 3 times in 07, 2011, and 2014. Jason Kidd did that in 2003, and Larry Bird did that in 1984. So it's a pretty elite list. I mean, even you look at the worst guy out of that bunch, Jason Kidd. That's
Hall of Fame guy, yeah, potential Hall of Fame guy.
Bam is in elite company right there.
Yeah,
so
at age 23 right now, too. But he's in company with Bird, LeBron, Shaq, Wade, Jason Kidd, yeah.
And something I saw John Calipari, the Kentucky coach, Bam's college coach, say, he was on the jump. He said Bam is creating a new position in the NBA. He's a point.
Yeah, he's on the jump because I saw him say it on the TNT.
He's on the jump, yeah. I'm sure.
He stays at Barkley and Shaq, yeah.
Around. But he said, yeah, Bam's created a new position, and he's a point center.
Yeah.
And Bam is, he leads our team in assists, but he also, of course, is going to lead in rebounds.
Yeah.
And then anytime he can score a bunch of points, he's going to be leading our team.
As much as I love Bam and Calipari making that take, I still think we got to give some credit to Jokic. We've seen him take the ball up the court. We see Jokic be a passer. All right, Alex, last fun fact. What's number 5?
The first, this NBA Finals where the Miami Heat will play the Los Angeles Lakers will be the first time ever in NBA history that the 2 teams that missed the playoffs the previous season have made the finals.
Yeah. Wow.
It's also crazy. I mean, and I think it's something new that this has happened the first time, but I don't think it's the last time we'll see it. Just based on the fact that you see these teams that they can sign guys in free agency and make these huge leaps in their team. And obviously he's a little bit different. Yes, we signed Jimmy Butler, but our younger guys made big jumps as well. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love that. That's another really cool fun fact.
All right,
those are 5 fun facts
I guess
for the NBA Finals.
That's pretty much it for this episode. Or no, do we want to talk about Doc Rivers at all?
John, don't we have to make a finals picks?
Yeah. All right. You know what? I think I should go. I think I'll go first, Alex.
Oh no.
All right. Well, here it is. I think for listeners, it's pretty obvious right now if you're listening. We did a lot of, and we do just generally a lot of Heat hyping up throughout our podcast, and that's because we're Miami fans. It's because we watch them the most, and we know them the most, and we know their strengths the most, we know their weaknesses the most, we know what they're capable of. That's why I picked them to go to the conference finals. I picked them to beat Milwaukee, but I didn't pick them. I didn't want to go all the way, but in reality, I should have known if we beat the Bucks, we had a shot. We probably were going to beat the Celtics. But regardless of how much it looks like the Heat should win, I'm still not going to pick against the Lakers.
What do you mean?
I'm
All
not.
things point to the Lakers right now.
Well, I'll get into that.
Okay.
So everything just looks like Miami's the better team. The defense, the depth, the three, all that. They all have the edge. This is the best defensive team that the Lakers are going to see in this playoffs. And obviously the Lakers, ran through the West. I'm not saying that because we're the best, we're better than Denver and Houston and Portland. The Lakers can't beat us. No, but it's just going to be the biggest challenge for them. And I think, first I'll say my pick will be Lakers in 6. But what I'm saying is that Miami looks like a better team. Like, people say, they're a 5 seed. The Lakers are hugely favored. Like, no, they're not a 5 seed. They were a 5 seed because the lineup with the most minutes all season long was Jimmy Bam, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn, and Myers Leonard. Two guys who have not played, who are not playing. Myers Leonard has had like 9 minutes in the entire playoffs, not just the last round. The entire playoffs, Myers Leonard's played 9 minutes, and he was in a lineup that was the most used for our 5-seeded team.
We're a different team.
Okay, we're different. If you run the season back with Hero being what he is now, with Iggy being what he's been, with Crowder being in the starting lineup, with Dragic as a starter, we're in there with Toronto and Boston for the 2 seed.
Somehow you're giving me the argument for why Hero winning.
And I'll explain. Okay, so this finals, and I'm getting to my point. I'm getting to my reason. I'm getting there. This reminds me of 2015 LeBron against being the best player in the series, going against an overall better I'm sorry.
Wait, LeBron 2015.
I know. Wait. 2015 LeBron going up against a overall better Warriors team. No one on the Warriors was better than LeBron, but he was going up against a better team. Similarly, 2014 LeBron, best player in the series, facing a better Spurs team, right? Best overall player going up against better team. But what's the one difference, Alex? What's the difference this time?
Okay, now I see why you
The difference is that LeBron James did not have Anthony Davis. If you gave LeBron James Anthony Davis in his prime in the 2014 NBA Finals, in the 2015 NBA Finals, he's winning both of those rings. He just is. And this Heat team looks like just better team. We talked about it. Moving the ball well, just being more cohesive, just like liking each other. I think a big thing was, and Jackie McMullen and Bill Simmons just talked about this on Bill Simmons just posted a podcast yesterday. And the fact that in the bubble, there's the mental health thing aspect is really real. Like, some guys just couldn't handle it. And I don't watch hockey, but our buddy Max was telling us why the Bruins lost. He said the Bruins goalie, he couldn't handle it and he left the bubble. Like, it's a thing. And obviously the Heat team are here because they're a mentally tough group. They're mentally tough and they like each other. And that goes with all the other things on the court that they have. So this Heat team, I think there's a huge argument for them. But for me, I'm not going to pick against LeBron James because LeBron James, if he loses this series, I don't think you can call him a GOAT. However, I don't know why Siri is turning on.
She thought you heard.
Yeah.
You said series.
If LeBron James loses the series, he's not a GOAT. He might not even, people will probably say Kareem over LeBron, whatever. I think LeBron James is a GOAT. He's co-GOATs with MJ, and he's not going to lose this series to the Heat. Okay. So that was my little 4 or 5 minute spiel. Alex, who are you picking?
I mean, I can't believe you didn't learn. You picked against your team last series. You picked the Boston Celtics. And now we were finally here, and you're really going to jump ship now. Yes, Sean, it's hard to pick against LeBron. Yes, if you think he's a GOAT, it would make no sense. But I don't care. All right, I'm just going to say I'm picking the Miami Heat. Okay, I'm picking the Heat. I'm glad that we actually split, one person picked the Heat, one person picked the Lakers. And I spent so much time, John, focusing on the Miami Heat getting out of the Eastern Conference. That is, once we made the finals, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just like, I got complacent. I'm happy to be here. I love LeBron. I'm happy losing. Or not happy. I don't mind losing to LeBron. Nobody expected us to be here. So it's just easy, of course, when the Lakers are favored too. Oh yeah, the Lakers are probably going to take care of us. But over the last 2 days, 3 days, whatever it was, two things. With all the podcasts that I've consumed, I've just heard every single argument, every single take. And the more and more, I've just been only thinking about this, John. And I decided it's very clear, and you kind of made this point. The Miami Heat are the better basketball team. The Heat are deeper. We have a better coach, without a doubt. I mean,
I didn't even mention that. Yes, that's a better big coach. Point.
We've, I think, a better culture. LeBron last year, that team was a ship. They were shipwrecked. This year we have the Heat, we have better culture, we have better chemistry. We're hungrier, I think. We're tougher. This Lakers team has been complacent throughout the playoffs. They've lost games. They wasn't there that night.
Same record, 12-3.
Same record, yeah. And you want to do the whole 5 seed thing. Yeah, we're not a 5 seed. But guess what? If I told you that
we have not lost game 1, you're correct.
Let me just tell you, if I just tell you,
or
a 5 seed got out of the. If I told you that a 5 seed got out of the East or got out of one of the conferences, you'd probably say, yeah, they did it in like 6 games each round, or maybe it was like 5, 6, and then 7. Or no, John, we have the same record as the 1 seed. When that 1 seed has an easier path than us, that's incredible. We beat the 1 seed in the whole playoffs in 5 games, and that whatever we can unpack that. That's different. There's context there too, but the Heat I just think we're a better team. Yes, they have LeBron. Yes, they have Davis. But I cannot pick against the team. I'm looking at it. It's looking at me right in the face. I do trust Eric Spoelstra. I do trust the depth. I do trust our culture. I trust the Miami Heat. And for Miami, the main difference, you kind of mentioned it. You know it's LeBron and then it's Davis for the Lakers. For the Heat, you don't know where it's coming from. Last series in games 1 and 2, Dragic had 29 points and then 25. Right. Game 4, Tyler Hero went off for 37. Game 6, Bam had 33, and Iguodala came off the bench for 4 threes, hitting, and he had 15 points. You don't know where it's coming from. Yet, do the Lakers have that to a similar extent after LeBron and Davis? Yeah, you don't know who's it going to be. Is it going to be Ronald tonight? Is it going to be Caruso tonight? But those guys aren't as good.
They're going to score. You don't know who's going to give them 8 to 9 points.
Yeah.
It's not who's going to be the number 1 guy. But go ahead, Alex, finish.
Bring this full circle from what we opened the show with, John. Pat Riley is petty as hell. And I just think this organization has wanted to take on LeBron since he walked out the door, John. They didn't get a chance in 2016 when we were 1 game away. Game 7 versus Toronto Raptors. We win that game. We're playing the Cavs in the conference finals. Now's our shot. We have our chance. No one knows LeBron. No one knows LeBron as well as Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra was his coach for so long. Eric Spoelstra also, I think, knows Frank Vogel very well, and I think Spoelstra has some real estate in Vogel's head, John. Whatever that means, And Vogel, of course, seemed like, all right, you had LeBron last time, you won. Let's see what happens when I have LeBron. I just trust Spoelstra more. I trust the fact that the reason we traded for Jay Crowder and Iguodala, we knew. I think, and that's what some people want to talk about.
We were focused on beating Giannis. We didn't even think we could get here.
But I just think making that trade in that point of the season showed how much confidence and faith Pat had in this team all along.
Yeah, Iguodala wanted to be on a contender, and we were a contender.
So, I didn't say how many games I'm picking them in yet, but here's my reasoning. So, I think this series, I want to say this series is going to go 7 games, John. But, that being said, LeBron James does not lose Game 7s. His last 6 Game 7s, he's 6-0. He has not lost a Game 7 since he was 23 years old. The first 2 Game 7s of his career, he lost to better teams while putting up pretty good stat lines. I think one of those games he was against the Celtics. He had 45 points. And so he lost the first 2. The last 6 games, LeBron James, Game 7s, he has won all of them. So I don't pick against LeBron James in Game 7.
But I don't think you can say LeBron's going to only win 2 games in the finals.
Which is why the Heat are winning in 6 games. We're going to surprise everyone. John. We're the better team. No one's going to see it coming, but this is what's happening. It's Heat in 6.
I wanted you to say 04 Pistons so I could just clap back at you and say this team is not the 2004 Lakers, right? This 2020 Lakers, that 2004 Lakers team, Kobe and Shaq hated each other, right? People are making this comparison, but the difference is Anthony Davis and LeBron like playing each other. They like each other,
Yes, that's true. There's no dysfunction on that side of things. I don't like the fact that people are calling us 2004 Lakers. I would rather say 2011 Mavericks. This is something I have to give a shout to Ethan Skolnick, 5 Reasons Sports.
Yeah,
he said this on his podcast, and he said we're more like the 2011 Mavericks, which I do like that because we do have. You look at the top of our team. Yeah, they had Dirk. We have guys like Jimmy Butler, Bam. But other than that, we have
Terry,
yeah, we have a deep bench.
Tyson Chandler.
Also, similar to what the Mark Cuban went on first take that one day and was yelling at Skip Bayless.
Yeah,
and what he said
I'll never
was,
forget that.
Everyone wants to say LeBron choked. I think we put LeBron in a position to fail. What he did, or not to fail, we put ourselves in a position to win, given that
we made LeBron make the right decision.
He said 9 times out of 10, LeBron James made the right basketball play, which was he's saying we sent the second guy and LeBron James had to pass.
Yeah.
And I think the Heat are going to do the same thing. Of course, now the difference. All right, well, is Davis going to win it? Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to take Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, Bam, Iguodala. I'm going to take our guys to win the series over Anthony Davis. We know what LeBron's going to do. We're going to make it hard for him. He's going to be great. But that's why, John, I'm picking.
All right. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Double Take. If you're listening, has been just about an hour. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you're listening on ×2, ×1.5 speed. Please enjoy the NBA Finals.
Too fast, John.
Nah, I mean, listen, you like that efficiency. You got a 30-minute walk. It's an hour podcast. ×2 speed, you finish it in 30 minutes.
All right. Well, got to go to class, John. I'm going to be wearing my Heat Bam jersey.
I'm wearing my hero jersey today.
And I remember the beginning of the playoffs, or beginning of the Bucks series, first day of class, my professor said, "Oh, how the Heat going to do?" I said, "Heat in 6." Here we go. I'm going to the same class right now. Heat are in the NBA Finals. Heat in 6, everyone. You heard it here first. Have a good one.